You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 117.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hello, beautiful. How are you? If you are watching on YouTube, you're probably wondering where in the heck I am. I am actually on the Pacific coast of California. I have taken a little bit over 2 weeks outside of Chicago, outside of my corporate job, to do some traveling. And this is actually like a huge dream come true for me to be able to be coaching remotely and working remotely. I just presented a session on goal setting to an awesome group of 17 people. I have my mastermind later this week that I'm doing remotely. So this is just amazing. It feels very freeing to be able to travel and do what I love and do it remotely from beautiful spaces. So, as you know, this week we are going to continue our conversation about relationships. So, last week at episode 116, we talked about our relationships when it comes to our partner, our spouse, more of the intimate side of things, and maybe the way that infertility has impacted your relationship with your husband. And we'll continue more this week about talking about relationships with your friends. And if you're like most, if you're like me, you might be the only one of your crew that does not have kids. You might be the only one who, when you go out on a girls' night out, everyone is sharing stories and acknowledging things that they are experiencing through their parenthood that you just don't relate to anymore. And it feels maybe a little bit isolating, maybe feels like invisible, like people are talking about this stuff and you absolutely have zero to add to the conversation. And you might feel even a little bit like you don't fit in with your friend group anymore because you don't have what they have. And I want to acknowledge that these are all valid things. And I know that you know them. I know that you feel them. I know that you might be judging yourself for how you have reacted to them. And I want to tell you that it's normal. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad friend. You're not a jealous type of person who can't be happy for your friends. That is not what all this is about. It's first acknowledging that, of course, you feel this way. Of course, you get an announcement to a friend's baby shower and you're like, what the heck? How dare they invite me? Do they not know that this is like such a hard thing for me to do? Or when you're out at that girls' night and the conversation is all about what Joey and Timmy and Morgan are doing, and you're kind of like, what the heck? I've got nothing to add. So, of course, it feels isolating. And of course, you might feel invisible. But what you probably want to know is what can you do in these situations? And I first want to say the most important thing that you can do is recognize that what you are feeling is valid and that you're not a bad person for feeling left out. You're not a bad person for not being excited to hear what they're talking about. Because let's be honest, do we really care what they're doing in second grade with their kids? Probably not. Maybe some of us are. But what I want to help you figure out today is realize that it's okay to not have to be part of the conversation all of the time. And what does that look like? Maybe it's understanding that there are going to be times when your friends get together that you don't want to go. And not going doesn't mean that you're not a good friend. It doesn't mean that you're jealous. It doesn't mean that you're weak for not going. It just may mean that the conversation that's going to go on at that outing, you just don't have interest in. It's not the conversation that you feel nourished by, and that's okay. And let's talk about really what it feels like to go and force yourself into a place that doesn't feel comfortable to you. I'd love for you to think about why you find it necessary to go to something that you don't feel like you are part of. A lot of us do that because, let's be honest, we worry if we don't show up at these things with our friends, what they're going to think about us. Maybe you wonder, what are they going to say about you? Or maybe if you're like me or like many of the women that I work with, you might be worrying, like, what if I don't get invited anymore? What if I say no and they start to think I'm just like not going to start going to stuff? So they quit inviting me to things. And I want to acknowledge, like, that might happen. But do you want to be at things that you feel like you are a part of? Or do you want to go to things and be miserable during them? Or the other option that I have is being open and honest with where you are with those conversations and not being somebody who's going to go to an event and tell everyone, like, listen, I don't want you to talk about your kids the whole girls' night out. No, I don't think that's fair. But maybe recognizing, like, can you get up at a part of the conversation and step away? Is there someone in the crew that you go out with that you can say, hey, for example, mine would be like, hey, Sabrina, if you notice, like, if everyone starts talking about their kids, like, and you notice that I get up and walk away, like, I just want you to know, like, I'm okay. It's just, I'm trying to work through this right now. It's something that I'm working through. As you can imagine, like, it's a little bit of a tender subject, and I don't want people to feel like they can't talk about what they don't want to talk about, what they want to talk about. And I don't want them to feel like they have to censor things around me. And I love that you guys have your things that you relate on there, but for me, it's really hard right now. So if I get up and walk away, like, I don't want you to think it's like something dramatic. It's just something I'm working on preserving for myself. So maybe having that conversation with somebody, or maybe realizing that there's going to be nights when they go out and you're not included. I went through that with my friends. And I'd hear them talk about, like, oh, remember when we were at dinner a couple weeks ago? And I thought to myself, I didn't get an invite to that dinner. And instead of making it mean that I wasn't a relevant person in their lives, like, maybe they wanted to have that time to talk about their kids. And they were respecting the fact that they knew it might be hard for me to listen to, and realizing that maybe I don't have to be part of every conversation that goes on in my crew, and realizing that maybe friendships will change. I think that is something that's really scary, is realizing that when your best friend becomes a mom, the conversations might not be the same, and that's okay. I think it's really important to understand that people change and friendships change. And if we're always suction cupping ourselves to a friendship because of the way it was, then we're not allowing ourselves and our friendship to grow. Because you think about it, like, maybe your best friend from college, your lives were so different then. You didn't have the things going on in your lives in college that you have going on now. So if you are expecting that you guys go out and stay out till 4 a.m. like you used to do at the bars in college, and when your friend doesn't want to stay out till 4 a.m. because they have something to go home to, or you have something to go home to that doesn't warrant staying out till 4 a.m. anymore, it doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong with your friendships, but maybe realizing friendships sometimes move on. And that if you're staying in a friendship for fear that somebody else might not show up in your life to fill that time, that that doesn't have to be true. Like there's a million and one opportunities for you to find new friends and explore new opportunities. I see it all the time. There's people I know who just went on a cruise for childless women. There's a woman I know, Vanessa. She put together a tour group to go together of childless women to go to Cuba together. I have a meetup group in Chicago, and there's people that come from all over who maybe are even traveling in Chicago, and they'll show up at some of our events. So there's not like this definite amount of people that will only fill the box of being friends, but also like realizing maybe there's room for you to bring new people into your life. And I think a lot of us, when we get to become adults, we think that that's it. Like you go into an adulthood and the friends that you have for life have already been established early on. And nobody really makes meaningful friendships and relationships when they become adults. Like those are just sort of like secondary relationships. But what if that's not true? Think about the people that you know who have kids and they have like mom friends that they meet through their kids' schools and such. Why is that only available to your friends with kids? What if you have the ability to create friendships with people who aren't moms? And maybe that's coming to the Others Day brunch. You all know that on May 11th, this is going to be my third Others Day brunch in Chicago. And you don't have to be just from Chicago to come to it. People came from all over last year. I have hotel deals, special rates at hotels. I mean, it's an amazing event. So many people met at the Others Day that had a desire to come to something to meet other people who aren't moms or other people that feel heaviness around Mother's Day. So allowing yourself to realize that friendships don't always have to stay the same. The conversations and the topics and the things that you talk about don't always have to stay within a certain lane. Like I personally, I don't think it's fair for me to go out with my friends with kids and expect them to never talk about their kids. Am I interested in it? Maybe not. But I don't expect that as somebody who shows up as a contributor to a group, I don't think that they have to censor what they have to say. And maybe I have some things that I have to say. Maybe I have some things that I've experienced in my life because I'm not a mom that I should have the space to talk about at our girls' nights out. So I think it's this belief that a lot of women carry that if you don't have something to add to the conversation that's related to kids, that you don't have something meaningful to say. And I don't think that's true. I have a lot of amazing and interesting things that I bring to the conversation, or at least I think they're interesting and worth noting. So I talk about those things. And I don't have to be silent when people are just talking about their kids. I can add more into the conversation, and I think that you can too. So as you're thinking about navigating your friendships with people who are childless, when you're childless with people who have children, I want you to pay attention to the fact that your friendships can go in different directions. Your friendships can grow in different ways. Maybe there's different activities that you do that don't have to be related to conversations around kids. But if there is conversations around kids, just being able to listen, acknowledge that that part of the conversation isn't relevant to you or you don't have interest in, and deciding, do you want to sit at the table and continue to listen? Do you want to excuse yourself, go to the restroom, maybe make a quick phone call, fake a phone call, be like, hey, I got to be right back. I got to take this phone call. Maybe finding an ally within your group that you can say, hey, I really want to be part of this group. But if you see me step away when you guys start talking about kids, just know that it's nothing personal. You guys are really important to me. I want you to be able to share those things that you have in common. But right now, I'm just working through how I fit into the conversation. So I'm just going to step away. And it's nothing dramatic. So maybe stating that to somebody in the crowd, or maybe just knowing ahead of time that that's what you're doing for yourself and not having to tell anyone. But I think most importantly, really knowing that there's so many women out there who don't have children who would love to create friendships with you. So learning where those people are and how to connect with them, whether it's virtually. I know so many people that do virtual happy hours over over Zoom and get together once a month. I mean, I can think of two or three just off the top of my head, or different organizations that allow a place for women without kids to come in and share and connect. So I hope that is something that you can think about. And back to the Others Day, tickets are going to be going on sale soon for the Others Day. So if you're thinking about coming into the Others Day and coming to Chicago, let me tell you what a great decision that would be. Tickets are going to go on sale very soon. I'm going to offer early bird pricing for people who buy their tickets early because I want you to come. I want you to enjoy all of the festivities that I have put together for you. And I really hope that you make it a priority for yourself to learn how you show up in your friendships, where you play a part in your friendships, and the ability that you have to create new friendships. So I love you. I hope you have a beautiful week. And remember, it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.